in so many different ways. I keep talking about his defense, and to him have a special night like this, look at Kyle looking for him. He gets another two.
And there it is. The Raptor record, Fred VanVleet.
Welcome to Raptors Today. The Raptors won against the Orlando Magic last night, 123-108. And I mean, all I can say is Fred VanVleet, guys. It was an insane game to watch. I can't wait to break it down with you guys. Now, he went off for a career high of 54 points and 11 threes. If you take a look at the board that's up right now, he was 17 for 23 field goals, 11 for 14 three-point field goals. And, it was brought up earlier today to me. His three-point range was what some people have as a percentage for free throws. So, it's very impressive. Jonesy, when was the moment that you knew that this is going to be a special game for Fred?
With 31 or 28 or so, like things are slowed down. You can't maintain that pace, right? Fred just kept going, and he just kept knocking down shots. And in a way, he was quiet about it. He was responsible, as that we were talking about on Nightcap. He wasn't just, I got a license, it's going up. He was very, true to himself, his game, his team. So it took me a while, Sav. And then I just kept noticing the other things he did too. With 46 points at the end of the third quarter, he ran 92 feet to make sure Terrence Ross didn't get a layup. So I'm late to the party, but it took me a while, probably till he got, into the third quarter and he'd made 3 or 4 in a row and he's into the 40s. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, we got something going here.
You know what? You're not that late because or maybe we were both late because it was the 46-point mark for me as well. And I was almost going to tweet it. I'm like, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to have 54 points. But I'm like, by the time you say that, it's like, what's the point? Of course he is. Sherm, you're an athlete. You are an Olympian. What's it like to be in the zone?
Yeah, let's use past tense when we talk about being an athlete, please, Sav, at this point. But obviously I've never played in the NBA to understand what he actually did is beyond my comprehension. But we've all played basketball. We've all had moments on the court where it feels like everything you do is effortless. It feels like every decision you make is the right one. Every time you release that shot, it's going in. We've all had those moments, and you've got to just figure it feels like that in a moment for Fred last night. And, the good thing about Fred was, to Jonesy's point, he wasn't hunting. He was not hunting his buckets. I'd have been. They were in the flow. Yeah, they were in the flow. They were just happening, and he was just constantly making plays. And what I really enjoyed about it was, if you looked at Fred and didn't know the score and didn't know what he was doing, just watched him play, you would have no clue that he was scoring 45, 46, 48 points. He looked like Fred. And to me, it just characterized who he was and how he conducts himself, regardless of what's happening. There's no big swings for Fred. He's in the middle doing what he does and responsible defensively. But I just figure like being in that zone, for me, when it's happened, that rim is so big. Everything looks so available. The guy in front of you isn't there. He doesn't matter. It's just about you putting the ball in the basket. And that feeling is really special. To do it for 54 points, so that's the next level in the NBA for sure.
Sherm, I think you're still an athlete. You could play us one-on-one sometime. We'll have a tournament between the three of us.
Sav, I have no business being in the hospital at this point in my life.
Sherm, I'm going to get back to you for a second. Now, was this the most efficient game you've ever seen a Raptor play? Because keep in mind, you also had 3 blocks and 3 steals.
Yeah, and I think it was the most complete game I've seen a Raptor play in terms of setting a mark like that. Like, Fred was not only engaged offensively, defensively, you could argue he was just as engaged or more. And that's a special situation. So when you talk about, the DeMars and the Terrence Rosses and the Vince Carter performances, I don't think any of those guys had any impact defensively like Fred had in his 54 points. So I just think that Fred did a great job in just being involved all around. And the efficiency, to your point, Savanna, off the charts. You mentioned it earlier, 11 of 13 from the three-point line. The Raptors only made 23s in the game. Fred had 11 of them and only took 13 shots. And to shoot 23 times and score 54 points, that's about as efficient as you can get.
Yeah.
Jonesy, take us to school. How did this energy compare to the likes of DeMar that we've seen in the past, Terrence Ross and Carter as well?
Look, and I don't know if this is good or bad. Fortunately, unfortunately, being old enough to have been at all of those games and called 2 of them, it was a different kind of energy. All of those games, Vince's 50-point night, Terrence's 51-point night, DeMar's 52-point night, they all happened at home. And those guys were all feeding off the energy of the crowd because they sensed something was going. You had a packed house at the ACC/Scotiabank Arena, and people were into it. The team knew, the fans knew, the other team knew, and they were kind of, as Sherm says, hunting. They were looking for that guy. It was all about that. This was a different story. Fred's on the road. We're in COVID times. There might have been, a 5-10% capacity. So it was a different kind of energy. And to me, again, it speaks to the mettle of the player. The fact that this is going on, and it was like saying, yeah, I dropped 58 in the summer league in the schoolyard. Nobody saw it, but once you're going and you're in that zone, the energy, it perpetuates, it keeps you going. So it was certainly a different kind of energy being on the road without fans, Sav, but again, I give Fred all the credit. And listen, I'm giving his teammates credit too, because they had to know what was going on. What I want to know is the same way that they asked Sam Mitchell what happened in Kobe's 81, or asked Mike Budenholzer what happened in DeMar's 52. Steve Clifford, did you not know that guy was putting it on you? Just a question.
Very fair. So Nurse and Lowry and Fred himself had a little few words to say last night after the game.
It was like levels to it. It was kind of going in phases. Like, I knew after my first shot went in that I was going to shoot the ball well. Then I had a quick 9, and I had a quick 9 the last game before I got whacked in the head. But I just try to keep my foot on the gas, and I was able to find spots. My teammates did a great job of finding me and screening for me. So once I hit like the 5th one, I think I had 5 in the first quarter or something like that. I knew it would be a good night for me. So just kind of trying to stay aggressive and keep playing the right way and let the game come to me. And the basket just kept getting bigger. It was easy. No disrespect to the Magic, but I mean, for most of those, I was open. They were in rhythm. They were clean looks. They were within the offense. And that's why I was able to remain patient and still pass out of double teams and not take bad shots, because the way I got all my points, there was maybe 1 or 2, quick bad shots, if that. So most of those were in rhythm, within the offense, playing in the flow of the game. And so I even, told the guys, like, you guys keep playing. I could feel them start to try to look for me to the point to where they weren't looking at the rim anymore. And I wanted to win more than I wanted 50 points. So, just trying to continue to play with a pure heart and let the game come to me. And I was rewarded for that.
Well, I thought early on, Doug, that the ball was coming off his hands so easily, right? The deep shots just looked like, hardly any effort. So there was something there that was just making them fly off so comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Just like wherever he shot it from, it seemed like it was about a free throw line attempt effort wise. That was one thing I noticed. Yeah, I'm not sure he forced any of them. He might have. He usually gets forced into a couple late shot clockers. He's kind of one of our bailout guys there, but I'm not so sure he forced anything. Maybe 1 or 2 at the rim, but he also, again, he's making a hard drive, and that's what ends up being open. Yeah, that's pretty good. Doug, 54 points on 23 shots is pretty good.
He legit, when I tell you, he legit was like, yo, y'all just keep playing. And we just had to keep playing. And the way, we played tonight, everybody was just looking for theirs to be it wasn't forced to him, right? Everything was in rhythm and flow of the game. I think the last 2 buckets, the pass over top, I kind of forced the pass to him, and then the other one, I wanted to make sure he got the 50, but everything was in the flow. And just the hardworking kid that's undrafted from Rockford, Illinois. I mean, y'all gotta just, y'all know how I feel about him. That's my little brother, man, and I'm proud of him. I seen DeMar send out the tweet and said I'm too old to get it, and I am. But you know, my two guys, DeMar and Freddie, have the records, and even Terrence is in that, and I was able to witness all three of those 50-point games, and you know, they all are special to me tonight, which is really special because it came from a kid who, you know, was undrafted, worked his way to, you know, an NBA player and then an NBA starter, and then possibly this year an all-star and, you know, possibly an all-defensive player. And that's what makes it really special. He's a winner. Simple as that. He wants to win, and he wants to help his team win at the highest of levels. And, you know, that's how we, you know, that's how he's been special and been a guy that is just, you know, just play hard and try to do what it helps, do whatever it takes to win basketball game.
Great, thanks, Kyle. Hey, congratulations on the triple-double that no one will talk about.
Don't even worry about it. Came in the flow.
Believe it or not, there was other players on the court, not just Fred last night. One of them being Norman Powell, who had a really great game. He had 23 points. So Sherm, how did you think he did? And do you think he's able to continue this performance?
Well, first of all, I think he did great coming back from that quad injury. And then, yes, I mean, prior to that, he was averaging 20 points, you know, in the last few games. So I just think that it was great to see him hop on the moving train and be right in sync with it and not, you know, show any rust or a little bit of a timing issue based on missing a couple games. And for Norm, I mean, it's unfortunate, but when he gets to playing well, something happens. He gets banged up in some way. He has to miss a little bit of time, and it just derails him sometimes. This time, I thought it was great to see him come back and play at a high level, score the basketball, and do all the things that we're used to seeing him do prior to him getting injured. So it was to see Norm do that. And, you know, Doug Smith from the start talked about Kyle's triple-double in that little interview, and Norm had 20-plus points. I mean, this is a real interesting game when you think about a guy scoring 54, but still having all these guys chip in at a very high level.
Yeah, Sherman, and that's the thing that that makes the game so beautiful. It wasn't just all Fred when you look down the statistical column. That's the 7th career triple-double for Kyle Lowry. And Savanna, 13 of them have come on the road. So that tells you about Kyle and his ability to, it doesn't matter, hey man, home, road, moon, Mars, wherever, playground, I'm out there doing my thing. So, and again, it speaks to guys wanting to win. It would be terrible for them, and you know them as pro athletes, it would be terrible for them to be talking about 54 points and a triple-double in a game that they lost. And as you heard Fred say, and as Kyle said to Doug Smith, hey, it came in the flow. It's all good. We won the game. So all those numbers, unlike the hollow numbers that sometimes get put up when a team's losing.
Absolutely. And we're going to head right now to RTX. This is RTX. Join with me today is Mike Roach, co-host of the Sixth Man podcast, and Meghan McPeak, TV play-by-play for the Washington Mystics. Nice to have you guys back on. Now I want to jump just right on into it. So much to talk about. We saw Fred VanVleet's outstanding performance, making NBA history last night. DeMar DeRozan tweeted saying, "Congrats to my brother Freddie V. Old Kyle couldn't do it all. Glad you've been a champ. Been telling you." Now, guys, NBA All-Star voting is open. Meghan, which Raptor are you voting for?
Okay, so I'm gonna make this clear. It doesn't have to do with last night's performance. Even before the record-setting performance, I would have put him in as my Raptor to vote, and that's got to be Fred VanVleet. He's leading the team in scoring with just over 20 points per game. We know what he did last night with the 54, and as well too, 11 of 14, nearly 78% from the three-point line. That's what some guys shoot from the free throw line. So for me, it's got to be Fred VanVleet. He's also the only Raptor that has started every single game for them. So for me, it's got to be Freddie V.
Yeah, I got to agree with everything Meghan just said there. Even before last night's game, Fred has just been a model of consistency ever since he's been in the league. And he hasn't missed a game. He's averaging 26 and 4 on the season. And he just does it all when you need him to. Can shoot the ball from the outside, finishes well at the basket. is not a slouch defensively, makes plays for his teammates. So overall this year, I do think Fred is the best player on the team for the Raptors, and he is definitely the one that I'll be voting for to be in the All-Star game.
Moses Malone's record for most points scored by an undrafted player. Moses Malone's was 53. Fred had 54, so just sneaked right in there. Switching subjects now, the Raptors, they spoke on Black history, and check out this video, and we're going to talk about it after.
Black history is everything. To me, Black history is everything.
To me, Black history is important. Crucial.
To me, Black history is extremely important for everyone to focus on, especially the youth.
Where we can look back at the past and see where we want to go in the future.
Understanding where I come from, my culture, my ancestors, understanding the struggles that they had to get through to have the freedoms that I have today.
Mike, which Raptor did you hear from that clip speak to you the most personally?
I think Stanley Johnson, when he said understanding where we came from. You know, when you don't understand where you come from, it makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out where you want to go and to really understand what you're capable of. To see what our ancestors had to go through, what they overcame, their contributions to the world, the civilizations in that they helped create, not only in Africa, but in Europe and all these other different places around the world. The things that they have done, a lot of the time it seems like it's swept under the rug. And when you don't know where you're coming from, it's hard for the new generation to get a sense of what they can and can't do. So I think as we go along in the future, I mean, I'm not sure about the both of you, but I have two daughters, and it's very important to me that they understand their history and what our people overcame, so that they know what they're capable of doing when they get a bit older.
Yeah, I would agree with Mike, and then as well too, I thought what Matt Thomas had to say was very insightful. And you know, in times like this, when you think of Black History Month, because we are in Black History Month in the month of February, but as well to everything that the world has really seen over the last 9 to 10 months, not just with the pandemic, but everything with racial and social injustices. It's the allies that I like to hear from and their insight. So I thought what Matt Thomas had to say was very insightful, because he took a step back and realized that he needs to understand, he needs to educate himself, and it's on our allies to do that. And it ties in essentially with what Mike touched on with Stanley Johnson in knowing the history, knowing what the ancestors went through. So I think what both Stanley and Matt had to say was very insightful. Really and truly, all of what they had to say was spot on when it comes to Black History Month and understanding and educating ourselves. But those were really the two that stuck out to me, just because essentially they coincided with each other's comments. So I thought it was great. But I thought hearing from an ally and Matt Thomas was very insightful, because he realized what he lacks is what he needs to work on, and what he lacks and needs to work on is where he can help move the conversation forward to continue to focus on Black history.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. Matt, he had a great voice as an ally, and that's very important, like now, obviously more than ever, to hear that. But, you know, Stanley Johnson really did like hammer it home for me personally. You know, knowing where you are from allows you to know where you are going as well. So great answers, guys. Now, the Raptors are 9-12 on the season, which is drastically different from how they started. They're 6-4 out of the last 10 games currently, and one spot out of 8th place. What are you seeing, Meghan, that's different from this team that started 3-8?
I think very simplistically, it's chemistry and comfortability. I think they've been able to relax and have been able to play within themselves and allowed the game to come to them. I thought early on, you had a lot of factors that were playing into it, having to uproot themselves from their homes in different cities, knowing they're not going to be playing at Scotiabank Arena and being in Toronto and being in front of their fans, to Tampa, having to adjust to that. I think that played a huge role, not having fans there that they're used to. Being booed sometimes by your quote unquote home fans as well too can throw you off. So I think they finally just found their footing and started to play within themselves and within that, 12 to 15 man rotation. And they're just looking very comfortable and like themselves. And it doesn't help when you have Fred and Chris Boucher and Kyle Lowry doing exactly what they do night in and night out.
Also, you see, the Raptors, one thing I'm seeing from Nick Nurse is that he's gone farther into his bench now. I think because they didn't have a training camp in a long time to prepare for the season, the rotations were kind of tight early on. But now you see guys like Chris Boucher and Bembry and all these guys getting into the game. Stanley Johnson is a guy who didn't get many minutes last year, who's also coming in and contributing. When you don't have a bona fide superstar, you got to go deep into your bench and get consistency from all your players down the stretch. And I think that's what we're seeing now from the Toronto Raptors as well.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us back here on RTX. We got to go now to Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton. Friday, February 5th, the Raptors take on the Nets at 7:30. Watch and listen on TSN. And the pregame show is, of course, on NBA TV Canada at 7 p.m. Jonesy, they play the Brooklyn Nets. How will the Raptors handle the big three there?
It's more than one guy. I mean, normally you go into a game and your scouting report has a main guy and then other secondary guys. There's three of them here, two of them former MVPs and three guys that can light you up. I think their schemes have to be tight. I think you have to try to make them work. But as good as the offense is, Savannah, the defense might be just as bad at the other end. You can go at them. If they're willing to play defense, maybe put them in some foul trouble, slow them down. But Toronto definitely has their work cut out for them. I would just say you've got to try to man up as best you can and trust the schemes that Nick Nurse puts into place.
Sure. Do you think this is going to be an offensive or defensive game primarily?
Depends on who you're talking about. Obviously, for Brooklyn, they're an offensive. I mean, the weapons they have, no other team in the league has. And they can put points on the board in a hurry. So they're going to score it, and it's going to be tough. But the Raptors, it's got to be a defensive game. They're going to have to score as well, but their defense is going to have to answer the call. And this might be the ultimate test of keeping the ball in front of you, the ultimate test of the primary defender having to lock in and make it difficult to some of the most premier scorers in the world. And that's going to be a challenge for the Raptors. They're not going to stop these guys. These guys are going to put points on the board, but can you make it a bit more? Can you force them into a lower field goal percentage? Can you not have your help engage as much? The challenge is there.
So thank you very much, Jonesy, Sherm. You guys are both athletes in my heart, in my mind. We'll catch you for another episode of Raptors Today next week. Thank you for watching our latest episode. Make sure you subscribe to all the Toronto Raptors social channels so that you don't miss a thing.